Hi, my name is Carmen, and I am an early childhood special education teacher, a life and ADHD coach, and I'm the host of this podcast, Authentically ADHD. I created this podcast to help anyone wondering if they have ADHD, people who have been diagnosed for a while and want some more support and community. I'm here to bring you the latest research on ADHD and neurodiversities while we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of ADHD. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hey there, ADHD. I see you. And if you're looking for some more support for yourself, your children, or both, my summer one-on-one coaching program is officially open. It's a program I built last summer as a summer boot camp type thing, and it'll teach you how to work with your brain instead of fighting against it, learning how to support yourself and your family in a self-loving and self-trusting way. It'll teach you how to do this through compassion and self-awareness. If you're interested, sign up through the link in the show notes. Keep being authentic, my friend. Now, back to the show. Hi, my friend, and welcome back to the podcast. How have you been doing? Really think about that. I've been doing pretty well with the stress and overwhelm of the end of the school year, plus building my coaching groups for the summer. Some of these experiences have inspired the topic that we're going to dive into today, which is masking, socializing, and suffering from that sensory overload, aka overstimulation. So, as you know, I am a teacher. Okay, I'm a teacher, an early childhood special education teacher. That means I have a classroom full of 15 3 to 5-year-olds. Some of them have special needs and some of them do not. Their special needs vary from, speech, only speech, to complete developmental delays. I have some students that are nonverbal, and I have some students that are super verbal, like that are ahead of the game. So, just even in the day-to-day life of being a teacher, I experience that overstimulation from socializing with coworkers and little children and having to mask to be that upbeat, energized teacher that I want to be, to give them that positive influence from school. And then, kids are loud. Kids are, they're impulsive. They have a lot of of the same, I don't want to say issues, but symptoms that ADHDers have because they don't have a fully developed prefrontal cortex. This is one of the reasons why it's actually so hard to diagnose children is because their prefrontal cortex isn't developed. Like prefrontal cortex, not developed until we're in our 20s. And for some ADHDers, it's not until we're like 30. So when you're talking about a 3 to 5-year-old and somebody asks me, if I think their child has ADHD or something of the sort, sometimes, yeah, I can tell because it comes through pretty strongly and you can see it pretty strongly and they aren't developing at the same rate as their peers. But for kids like me, of course they weren't able to tell when I was this young or even in middle school because they just thought that I was daydreaming. But I digress. So I want you to imagine about 100 to 200 3 to 5-year-olds, plus their families outside of the school, all engaging in multiple activities available. And then there is, of course, music blaring in the background. So when you do talk to others, you're pretty much yelling. And you may identify with that overstimulation, but miss the fact that as a teacher in this environment, I was also masking while socializing. Some people who do not understand may think she is so insensitive. She doesn't even like her job because she has to mask and pretend at it. That is far from the truth. I love my job and pretty much all that it entails. But I'm going to tell you right now, it can be really exhausting at times. Maybe you can relate with your job, with social situations that you maybe have gone through, because masking within the ADHD community is very common. Now, I want to make sure I'm not overstepping here because the term masking is coined by the autism community in that they mask their symptoms that are not societally acceptable, such as stimming in certain ways, like hitting their head or doing things that are outright hurtful to themselves, others, or flapping, things like that. These behaviors that they engage in because they are overstimulated. Okay. They're not socially acceptable. Other things like talking about their special interests and or holding back in like literally holding back their natural behaviors to be more accepted in society. Now, this somewhat overlaps with masking in the ADHD community because we as ADHDers have usually been masking our behaviors since we were small children, especially if we're undiagnosed, because we are attempting to look more neurotypical. Honestly, masking is generally trying to look more neurotypical. It's trying to not be yourself in order to fit in with others. We may, make excuses for being late or being distracted. We may try to sit still and avoid fidgeting when we're supposed to be sitting still and just look awkward. We often we put in twice the work and twice the effort on our work to a perfectionistic level. And we are people who over double check our belongings to make sure we have anything and everything we may need. In simple terms, with ADHD masking, we are attempting to mirror our neurotypical peers in order to not be perceived as different, weird, dramatic, etc. Crazy. There you go. We hold in our emotions, and some of us need to use this masking tool at work, in public situations, and in social situations. I've noticed that in my job where I teach 3 to 5 year olds, I need to mask some of my symptoms in order to effectively teach them. Essentially, we learn through growing up and receiving negative feedback. I mean, feedback that's usually negative, that leads us to start mimicking the speech, behavior, body language, and all of those other things of the people around us. Now, sometimes we feel masking is necessary. Sometimes, especially in people who have not been diagnosed with ADHD, the masking actually impacts the person negatively. It can lead to misdiagnosis because you don't look like you have ADHD because you mask it. And it can lead to not getting diagnosed or adding anxiety and depression to the ADHD. This is one of the many, many, many reasons that we have that comorbid anxiety and or depression. When you are masking, essentially, you're not really being yourself. I have um, attempted to and successfully managed to not mask in my classroom all the time. So I'm not always not myself, okay? So my masking is masking maybe some of the feelings that I'm having, or I'm masking the fact that I'm emotionally regulated when inside I may not be because that day maybe the student's behavior is just through the roof and I just can't handle it anymore. But I have to keep that inside because I'm not going to take it out on the 3 to 5 year olds in my classroom. This can affect a lot more than just being tired or being anxious or being exhausted from a day of masking. Now, the kind of masking I'm talking about is masking almost your entire personality. Some ADHDers mask so much that it actually affects their sense of identity. Think about it. If you're constantly holding back and attempting to mirror the neurotypical people around you, how do you know where they end and where you begin? How do you know who you really are when you're masking all the time, because you're just mirroring others. And I've heard this from other neurotypical people, that as they grow up, they realize that they don't know who they are. They don't know what they like to wear. They don't know what their favorite color is, because they have been mirroring the people around them. So, in the research, masking and social anxiety can go hand in hand, especially in the ADHD community. We have a very difficult time in social situations because of our natural impulsivity, our lack of focus, and getting distracted mid conversation. We are often told that we don't listen, that we don't care, and or that eventually we are labeled as the friend who, it doesn't listen very well, needs a lot of reminders, that we're flaky. At least that is what it's been like in my experience. Sometimes it can even lead to you being labeled as crazy, super weird, different, and this feedback is exactly why we end up masking. We get that feedback from our peers, teachers, etc. throughout our life. So we mask our symptoms, and masking our symptoms has a negative impact on our ability to regulate our emotions, our ability to have our own identity, and frankly, it's exhausting to be in all the overstimulation while masking. Being a teacher, I feel that this affects people a ton. I see children do it. Seriously, I'm not joking. These are 3 to 5 year olds who will mask, who will mirror other people's behavior, other children's behavior, to appear like others. We mask to appear like other teachers around us in the adult world of teaching. And in order to effectively have this teacher persona who is also like always happy and upbeat and full of energy, that's exhausting. So we are already in a social situation. It's overstimulating and we are masking. It's no wonder we feel so incredibly exhausted by the end of the day or the end of the week, and we need so much recover time after these types of events, parties, gatherings, and even just going to work. That's why I'm bringing in my job a lot, because that's what I have experience doing. But I'm sure that if I worked in a loud, factory, or if I worked in an office setting, that it would be the same thing. It would just be different things triggering my sensory overload or triggering me to mask. And it's one of those things that we do deal with as ADHDers, and it's not fun. It's very exhausting. We we get sensory overload or overstimulation through all of our senses, and it's not easy, and sometimes we just need a little support. Speaking of extra supports, I just wanted to tell you all that I've updated my Patreon page to include all of the resources that I've really ever made to be held in one place. Just head to my show notes. The VIP members do get a little extra, but you can also purchase like my brand new ultimate ADHD journal and planner, which I've been using for the past year, that has worked. Nothing is priced over $10, and everything is at least 50 to 100 pages that you can download and print. You can get it binded and sent to you, or you can just read it off your screen and use notebook paper. So if you want or need any type of that kind of extra support, just head to my show notes and click the Patreon link to join. I hope to see you in there. So, what is sensory overload? Sensory overload is defined as a feeling of intense anxiety when you experience too much sensory input, whether that be noise, touch, sight, smell, and all the things. Sensory refers to the 5 senses, so anything we can hear, taste, see, touch, and or smell. I don't know about you, but overwhelming smells like right now in the smells of spring, which I love almost all of them. The one that I can't stand is new mulch. Please tell me I'm not alone. When new mulch is put down, I can always tell, but I can't tell where it's coming from because I can smell it from far away. And that overwhelms me. It overloads my senses. Okay. Different types of sensory input affect different people with ADHD and varying levels, being that it's a spectrum. Either way, being overstimulated can make you feel anxious, overwhelmed, irritable, and incredibly uncomfortable. Then we are expected to continue in life with all the pent up overstimulation, anxiety, and feeling incredibly uncomfortable. Like, like that's just, to me, that's just ridiculous that this is a known fact about people with ADHD. Now, something that, I mean, I do some things at work to try and help with that overstimulation, but I have to be careful because if I have a headphone in one of my ears to block out half the noise and nothing's playing in the headphone, I look like I'm not paying attention to the kids when really it helps me pay attention to the kids. I've been looking into, and this episode is in no way sponsored by the Loops earplugs, but I've been looking into those. So, like, psst, psst, Loops earplugs, if you want to sponsor this and send me a pair, that'd be great because I feel that that would be something I'd be less judged on if I were to wear those at work and be able to hear, but it would help me with that overstimulation. It would help me focus because when we're overstimulated, things like our focus, our memory, our emotional regulation, those things, those symptoms are already, they're going to be harder to navigate if you're overstimulated. Then we can go into navigating social situations that include overstimulation and masking. It's very difficult. It's very difficult because we go to an event or a party or something, it's really loud. They maybe don't have the safe foods that we would like to eat. They are awkward. We don't know how to begin conversation with people. We don't know how to just walk up to somebody and start talking about the weather because we despise small talk. We are people who like to jump right in and trauma dump, and that's not something that neurotypicals tend to like. They aren't drawn to that, which is why a lot of times neurodivergent people are drawn to each other. Um, all of this, going to work, attending events, going into social situations, they are all very difficult for those of us with ADHD, AUDHD, and autism. But I do have good news. We do not have to live like this forever. There are ways, there are strategies that we can use, but they often include overcoming stigma. They often include being ourselves and finding people who do not judge us for being ourselves. It includes being honest with the safe people in your life. So, first, it's important to understand why we mask and why we are hypersensitive to external stimuli in order to understand why social situations, work situations, etc., are incredibly difficult for us. Then you can adjust, accommodate, and cope with the strategies that work for you. So, what are some of the things that make you feel like you need to mask? What are some of the outside things that trigger your overstimulation? Let's see. What are the strategies we can use to help in these situations? There are options like earplugs, using fidgets, walking around, standing up during a meeting, things that can help with overstimulation, and they're a bit more socially acceptable, those things. I definitely use things like when I'm feeling super pent up in my classroom, especially in the dead of winter when we can't go outside, I'm like, dance break, let's go. And the kids love it because they are on the same playing field I am. Sitting still is not cool for a lot of little children. They don't like to sit still. And that makes sense. It's developmentally appropriate. But for me, it helps me with those brain breaks to be able to focus and take data and do my job in the way that I need to do it. Another way we can build in these strategies is by drawing boundaries and helping those around you to understand your point of view and why you need these boundaries, such as needing to leave early from a gathering or having a quiet, safe space for you to go to while you're at the gathering to get a break. Another thing you can do is to dress in ways that don't add to your sensory overload. Maybe you just stop wearing jeans, and maybe you don't buy shirts with the tags anymore, or you cut them out. Maybe you find your own way to dress. And, be that as it may, you make yourself feel comfortable, meaning that what you wear is not going to reflect necessarily who you are. It still can. And some people, that's how we are. But forget that whole dress to impress thing and dress to be comfortable at work. Another plug here, not sponsored, but Hilera has the most comfortable work slacks I've ever owned in my life. They feel like yoga pants, and there's a cut line for the tag, so you can just cut it right off. No more itchiness, and you dress to impress, and you're comfortable. Going to a quiet and dark place for recovering time after work or after social events can also be a strategy that you can use. These things are strategies we can use, but the thing that really works is surrounding yourself with safe people who embrace and accept and love you for who you are. Sometimes the quote unquote answer is the need to find new people or to be open with the people in your life already. When I have new people join my classroom team, I let them know that I get overstimulated. I let them know all of the things about my ADHD. And you want to know what they usually say? Oh, okay. Let's put up a reminder thing so we can all remember this and that and the other thing. At least the team I have this year, they are safe. They are people who are willing to help support me. So finding new people is really the key. Then, when I joined my ADHD group coaching program, Focused, made none other than Kristen Carter herself, I finally felt like I belonged somewhere, like I had peers who really understood what I was going through. Connection is one of the biggest keys to a successful life with or without ADHD. Humans are meant to connect. It's a human need. So connect with those around you who understand. Connect with a therapist who can help you come up with coping strategies and boundaries and help you implement them. I promise you it's worth it, because the goal here is actually to mask less and to choose the events you attend, for how long, and with who, to help you manage your own overstimulation, to give you tools at work so you can be the best version of yourself that you can be, and really to help you live the best life that you can with ADHD, to stop fighting against it and live with it. Now, if you go to the link in my show notes, we both save money if you'd like to join Focused, the ADHD group coaching program for adults. I swear by it. I've been in it for almost 2 years, and I've grown so much in the last 2 years. It's actually kind of like not scary, but it's pretty impressive, at least to me, that I've grown this much in this small amount of time. You can go to that link and join. You can also sign up for a coaching session with me for free 30 minutes. We can go through some things and you can get some help. But I'm telling you, that connection is the thing that helps me the most. It's somewhere that I can go to help, to get tools, to get advice, or just to vent without worrying that people are going to judge me or that people are going to not understand, because everybody in my community has ADHD, so they know. Okay. I really hope that this episode gave you some insight on masking, on overstimulation, and why these things are difficult for ADHDers, and why in these social situations we may seem a little different. All right, my friends, that is all I have for now. And we will talk soon. Stay authentic, my friends. Talk to you later.